Shalom YouTube and welcome to OTH. Today, as you can tell by the setting and the toys behind us, and you can probably see in the window that it's dark outside, that we kind of snuck off into one of the back corners of the house while the kids are winding down for the evening to shoot a quick video for you folks about the top 5 reasons why, for us anyways, that it's important to homeschool. And hopefully what we have to share with you, we'll be able to speak some words of life and liberty over you, and perhaps maybe give some of you a direction that are maybe considering whether or not homeschooling is right for you. So stick around, we'll be right back. Hi guys, thanks for staying with us. And so next I'm going to turn the floor, so to speak, over to my beautiful bride, Mrs. Fletch, and she's going to share with you where she's coming from. And it's going to be a surprise to me because she asked me this morning, well, what do you want me to say? And I said, you know what? I don't want to know what you're going to say, and I want it to be a surprise to me as well, because I want it to be extemporaneous and I want it to be from the heart. Because that is what will mean the most to our audience. So without further ado, I'm now going to turn it over to my beautiful bride.
Hi YouTube, thanks for joining us tonight. Asked me about 2 weeks ago what my top 5 reasons for homeschooling were. And I asked him if I could have some time, because it really didn't just come to me what they were. And I wondered, it actually brought up a few questions. Were they still the same reasons that we started out with? Have they changed? Would I still homeschool if I could do it all over again? So I really needed to put a little bit of thought and some prayer into this question. And as I've thought over it over the last few weeks, I remembered back. Let me first give you a little bit of information. We're kind of in a very unique situation, although probably amongst homeschoolers you'll find this situation a little bit more often than in the world, so to speak. We have an almost 20-year-old son that no longer lives here, is graduated. We've also graduated our 18-year-old, who also no longer lives here in the house. They both live over 1,500 miles away from us, which makes us sad, but they are independent and both doing very, very well. But we also have a baby who will just be 9 months in a couple of days. So our age range is all over the board. We will be homeschooling for the next 20 years, basically, by the time our little one starts in 4 or 5 years, legally starts the school system.
And we've already been doing it for how many years?
Technically, I would say 16-ish years, although every year is an adventure. Every year sort of feels, even though I'm a veteran, I kind of feel like every year is, because it is a new adventure, the people have changed, they've grown, I've changed, that sometimes I still feel like I'm a newbie in a lot of ways. Anyhow, when I was a young mom and our first child was really little, probably 15 months or so, and I was pregnant with our second son, the idea of school and that, was probably far back in our minds. I don't really recall thinking about it or talking about it a whole lot, but I do remember a specific memory of a trigger that made me want to homeschool my children. The first thoughts I would have had about homeschooling, quite honestly, I wasn't afraid to do it. I was actually repulsed to do it. It was, my experience with it, which was very, very limited, and due to my own ignorance, youthfulness, and pride at the time, probably that's where that repulsion came. I just thought, how awful to homeschool my children. I'm gonna suck the life out of them and handicap them for life. They'll be social rejects. And for me, that was probably a huge huge thing. I grew up being a social reject until about junior high, and then my life changed and I wasn't quite the reject anymore, but I did not want my children to have to deal with
Prom
that.
queen, don't let it kid you.
It changed, like I said, it changed, but I was a reject for when I was younger. Anyhow, back to this story. So I thought about it, and I remembered back when we lived in Fort Collins, and I remember driving with our oldest boy in the back seat in his car seat, and we're driving up the road up to Dorset Court. I don't even remember the road name. Driving along, and all the little school children are walking home. And I remember crying in my car because these were, I mean, my son was 15 months, but he was a big kid. He's always been on the bigger side, taller. So size-wise, some of these kids were not much bigger than him, not much taller, walking home with their little backpacks on their back all alone. And that triggered something in my heart. It triggered something in my heart. And I remember, I don't know how long it was, but I do remember calling my best friend and telling her, and she was a teacher, and I am not joking, but every person that I went to high school with and was in my close-knit circle, my roommates in college, all teachers, public school teachers. So I'm calling my best friend, public school teacher, number one, and telling her I'm going to homeschool my children because I don't want them in the public school system. Huh. So the thought has been in my head for years. And so long story short, that is what began our journey. And from that point on, then we started to formulate reasons and do some research and realize just how amazing homeschooling can be, and is. It is. Would I change it? No. The only thing I would change is I would go back, and those couple of years, we did put some of our children in a public school for a year and a half as we went through a difficult season in our lives. I would go back and change that. I would do everything in our power. I would have moved back in with my dad, anything for us to be able to have managed during that time. So I would have done it the entire time. I don't regret any time of homeschooling. So reason number one, hopefully this doesn't offend most of you, but we're commanded to do it. As believers, which we are, we're commanded to do it. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4, it's the Shema. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh our Elohim, Yahweh is one. You shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your being, with all your might. These words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall impress them upon your children, and speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. I had no idea how we would impress anything on our children if they were out of our home at least 8 hours in school, plus an hour and a half bus ride. I was really, really just personally convicted that in order to impress something, in order for my children to be around me enough to get anything and imitate anything that I wanted them to, they needed to be in my presence. Now the flip side is, yes, there are things about me that probably my children and those around me are not going to want to imitate. But that's part of being in a family and learning to deal with other people. You get lots of those opportunities if you homeschool. So that was the first reason. Second reason was, again, like I said, we are in a unique position. And I sit here and it brings a lump to my throat and tears to my eyes that our oldest is going to be 20 and be married next year. Super excited for him, but it goes by really fast.
Congrats, Tej.
So on that note, they grow up fast, and we don't get them for that long. 18 years is really a short time in the lifespan. Even if it's only 70 or 80 years that we get on this earth, the 18 years that we get our kids is really short, and they're really valuable. So spending the time with them, for me, has been, it's priceless, as that commercial would say. I can't put a price tag on that. Third, values. The values that we saw in the public school, and especially now, 20 years later, things have just, in my opinion, gone down a spiral that is not the direction we wanted for our family. So we are able to teach the children our values. We're able to spend time working on their character. We're able to teach them life skills as well as math and reading and really just about anything they want to. Usually my children are done around lunchtime, not every day, but a lot of the time. At least my elementary, junior high kids. The high schoolers have a little bit more time involved right now, but they're done and they can go explore, they can read books, they go to the library. Our librarian loved our family. She loved us because we would come in and we would not just check out a book. One, we would come. That was a big thing in that small town. But we would check out books. My lists were like, pages long. She loved it that my children were just engaging in all kinds of literature and learning all kinds of things. I mean, we checked out books on every animal imaginable, the solar system, just anything. And it allows your children time to pursue things that they find fascinating and interesting, and they can ask you questions, because even in our home where we have a lot of children, the ratio, right now 1 to 9, it's still better than a ratio of 1 to, 24, 32, like some of the overcrowded kindergarten classes. And anyone that has a little kindergartner knows they have energy upon energy. And when you put 32 of them, even 20 of them in the same room, there can be some bouncing off the walls, all right? And nobody's gonna learn anything in that environment on some days. They're just pulling in that energy is going to be a task in and of itself. So for us, being able to have each of them here and teach them the things that are important to us is really, really valuable. And
in retrospect, 15, 16 years ago when we decided to start doing this, we didn't have the moral decay of society that we have today, and that helped us make that decision at the time. However, there were indicators at that time, and so for any of you that are out there and you might be considering this, just think about it in the same context in which we did 15 or 16 years ago. Look at where we're at today and imagine what it's going to be like another 15, 16 years from now compared to what it is today, if it's even still legal to do it at that time. So please continue.
Yeah. So reason number 4 is probably that we wanted to give our children a vision to love to learn. I think that homeschooling makes them better students. Not necessarily the smartest. That was never our goal. I know that some homeschooled students are just flat out on the genius. That was not necessarily one of our goals, to make them geniuses or to ensure, test them and make sure that they were, testing 5 grades ahead. That was never one of our goals. Our goals were to teach them to love to learn. If they didn't know an answer, how can you figure it out? Still will get frustrated. In fact, we had a situation today where one of our students was very frustrated at me because I was forcing this child to figure it out. I had given them enough information to solve the problem, but they wanted me to just give them the answer. And in our home, that is not how we typically do it. Occasionally we will. I'm in the middle of dinner, I got a crying baby. How do you spell something? I'll give them the answer. But usually we make them fight it out. And I really think in the long haul, and we'll ask our boys just to verify for you, our oldest boys that are graduated, if that has helped them in the long run. What I do know is I also have a unique position because I have worked side by side with our three oldest boys at our last job in Montana. And they were hard workers. the older women my age and above, not the 20 somethings and down, but the women my age and above who grew up in a different generation knew these boys were hard workers, responsible, polite. They treated customers right. They weren't on their phones all the time at the job site. They were doing what they were supposed to be doing. They were not caught up in all the hoopla and garbage that goes on in the typical workplace. So from that aspect, they did have some skills that put them above their fellow and co-workers. And last, I think probably one of the most important things just in general was time. The time we get to spend with them, but also it's ours. We can sleep in on the days when we've had a late night and we want to stay at a friend's house till midnight playing cards and visiting. And then we can come home and sleep in and get up at 9 or 10 and still have school. And they are rested and ready to think. 2 years ago when we lost our daughter, when we couldn't school for a month because I was a wreck, we didn't have to worry. That
was our break.
That ended up being a lot of our break, and we schooled more through the summer. And the kids, and the thing is, when you are homeschooling, your kids are constantly learning. You're teaching them skills. During that time, even though we were on a break, our kids were learning. Our kids were learning compassion. Our kids were learning how to serve. Our kids were learning more life skills on how to take care of their younger siblings, how to, bathe them, do all of these other things, cook meals, because their mother was really out of commission for a while. I was just emotionally a wreck. And they pulled together, and they were kind to one another, and they were loyal to one another, and they just worked as a solid unit to support the family during that difficult time. And it's exciting because we get to take off. Everybody else has Labor Day. We did school, but if they got it done early, we went to the lake after that. And we get to take off in the middle of October when it's cool and go on our week-long camping trip for Sukkot, which we've done the last 3 years. If we were in school, that would cause a problem. They'd get all these absences. It's just nice. We went to Denver to visit family. Our car broke down. We were there for 5 weeks. We just readjusted our schedule and adjusted our school around our life. So there's probably 100 more reasons why I homeschool and why I think it's just such a valuable thing. But those are probably my top 5. And yes, I would absolutely do it again. And I am very much looking forward to the next 20 years. Yes, I'll be an old woman then, but I will not have regrets about the time that I've spent teaching my kids and being here in the home with them and getting to be the one that they come to with some intimate problems. They come to us. They come to us. Sometimes there's a struggle with it, but they come to us when maybe if they were at school, they'd be doing that with someone else. So yes, I would do it all over again.
You just heard my beautiful bride give her reasons, and I just took a sneak peek at the camera, and I saw that we were already at around 20 minutes or so. So those of you that have stuck it out this far, thank you, congratulations. Hopefully you're getting something good out of this video. Now, what she doesn't know that you now know is that I wanted to say thank you in front of everyone, because you have done an amazing, wonderful job of educating our children. And I could not have done it. We both know that. Yes, there are some things that I can help in that you can't, vice versa, different things like that. But I don't have the mother's heart that you do. And so I wanted to say thank you. You are an amazing woman. You are an amazing educator, and you have done a wonderful job of educating our children over the past 15 or 16 years. And our oldest could have graduated 2 years early, but he decided he wanted to go to high school, so we didn't allow him to graduate 2 years early, but we did allow him to graduate 1 year early. And our second oldest son, 2 years early. And so, you know, that in and of itself, no, is not an indicator per se of the quality of the education that they were getting, but yet, obviously they were, if they were finishing their education that early. So, congratulations, I'm very proud of you, and I'm very thankful, very blessed, and so are our children. Well, YouTube, if you have any questions about homeschooling or anything that we've talked about, feel free to leave your questions below, and we'll do our best to answer them. But understand, you know, if you're just being snarky and or asking self-evident questions, obviously you don't really expect an answer, so therefore we probably won't. But those of you that are being genuine and you'd just like more information or have your questions answered, please feel free to post them below. We'll do our best to help you out. Thanks for watching today. I hope you're having a blessed day. Shalom.